Welcome, everyone, to Lions Do Not Bow, the show where we discuss politics, the Bible, culture, current events, and a whole lot of other topics. My name is Nathaniel Pawlowski. I'm a law student, son of Pastor Arthur Pawlowski. And together, me and my dad talk about all the things that are relevant in today's society. Christians often neglect what is actually relevant and going on today. So today, actually, we'll have a special guest who will talk about what it's like to be a Christian in Canada and, well, what it's like to be persecuted as a Christian in Canada. So we have him for a short period of time, so we won't delay. I'll have my dad introduce him, and you guys will be able to hear from a Christian who's actually doing things. The Bible talks about a type of Christian that has a form of godliness but denies its power, God's power. And that is so much more true in nowadays. So introduce our guest, Dad.
Yeah, so we're going to have Derek Reimer, the whistleblower from the city of Calgary, where I live. I know Derek for a number of years, and he is a husband. I was blessed to be able to marry him and his wife, Mona. They have a little baby, a boy, and Derek has been entangled with a fight against a growing pedophilia and grooming of the children that we're experiencing in Canada. Today, I was at the courthouse again, just doing our best to bring the awareness to what is happening. And behold, we were supposed to go and face the judge and listen to the arguments. But of course, again, they tricked us and they changed everything into a Zoom call. Can you believe it? You can't even see a judge these days. You can't face your opponents to look at them. And now they are doing this through a Zoom call. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, Derek Reimer, if you can come and let our viewers and listeners know what is happening to you, what happened to you, a little bit of a summary of your ordeal, and also what we talked about before you jumped into this call. I mean, the apology letter, them trying to force you into an indoctrination camp or school, all those crazy things that majority of people have no idea that are happening in quote right now free and democratic society.
Yeah, so thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity to share. And I just want to thank you, Art, for being a pioneer and a catalyst for those that are doers of the word and suffering persecution. I can't really think of too many others that are doing similar things and that are suffering here in the West. So there's a lot of complacency, a lot of lukewarmness. But in any case, to my story, today we're at the courthouse applying for an appeal. So it's interesting how the Crown, they can appeal whatever they want on a whim and it's no problem, but we have to apply for an appeal. So to take you back to the beginning, this is in late 2022. I attended my first drag protest. We started to make this, we are organized with it. We frequently went out and we peacefully assembled. We preached the gospel. We exposed darkness. And we actually were extremely effective with this. So effective that the mayor had to shut this movement down. She went on a Twitter tirade going off about how the bylaws weren't severe enough, as I paraphrase, and they needed to essentially criminalize these hate protests. They're rooted in hate. And so basically a protest that she didn't approve of, a protest that she doesn't like, because this mayor has a child that's a transgender confused individual. So she was a mayor that was protecting the LGBTQ community. So we had shut down about 14 events in a matter of 2 months, 2.5 months or so. We know this. A police officer had given a statement in the paper because we had shut down Chinook Blast, where a drag queen will go and skate around for the entertainment of adults, entertainment of more specifically children. We are very adamantly against. If consenting adults want to participate in homosexuality, that is their prerogative. That's their choice. The Bible still says that that's a sin. But when you want to involve little children in, a downtown open rink and downtown libraries that our tax dollars pay for, well, we take exception to that, and that is so vile, wicked, and wrong. Where we had to stand and we had to let our voices be heard and just shout it from the rooftops of what was taking place. So moving forward, we went to a Seton library. This is where it kind of kicked
And
off.
sorry, Derek. By shut down, you mean you were protesting in such an effective manner that these events actually got shut down by the city and by the organizers,
Yeah,
correct?
exactly. Thanks for clarifying. And yeah, Nathaniel, I'm sure you can attest to some of this as well, because I remember you being around during this kind of protest era. But they were concerned for safety reasons. They were concerned about these hate protests and what we were going to do. So it didn't matter
Even
what.
though you were just completely being peaceful, just exercising your charter rights and freedoms, reading the Bible, preaching, everything very, quote unquote religious based, where you're just letting your beliefs be heard out into the open. You had signs, you had Bible readings and preaching, and that's what you're talking about, right?
100%. We were just exercising our charter rights of peaceful assembly, expression, expressing your religious beliefs. And you know what? We've never had any charges of uttering threats or being violent. And actually, they were violent against me. At Seton Library, we went in and we rebuked it. We exposed it. We at this drag event right inside uh, the room where it was happening, and I got physically thrown out. I was physically ejected out of the room. My head bounced off a glass door, and I went onto my back. I respond with any anger, any violence, any threats. I just continued to preach the gospel and to expose this wickedness.
And here's a very, very important question that I have. Did anything happen to the organizers or those individuals that assaulted you? Was this relevant or brought up at all in trial, where the judge maybe considered the fact that you were violently assaulted and thrown? I mean, that video went viral. A lot of people saw that video. This isn't something that was hidden. This was on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok. This was seen by a lot of people. So did anything happen to those people?
No, nothing happened. There was no charges laid upon them. They were so focused on the so-called hate protesters that came in opposing this vile drag queen story hour. So I had continued to preach, and they wanted me to leave, but I only wanted to leave when there was an authority figure. So the cops came and said, if you don't leave, then we'll arrest you. I said, okay. I complied with that, and I left. I continued to preach all the way out of the library in the center, in the complex. And that's when the mayor went on her Twitter tirade, and there was no charges laid. There was no issues, no problems. And about 3 days later, hate unit showed up at my house saying that I was going to be arrested, and that I should come with them and sign some paperwork. And I refused to go. I said, no, I'm not going to go. I can't get a hold of legal counsel right now, and do what you got to do. And so, to be more precise, they had left, and then they came back and they arrested me a few days later. I spent some days in jail, got out. We continued to protest. I was even trying to work within the parameters of my stipulations, but they wanted to shut it down no matter if I was applying them or if I was complying, if I was trying to work within it, if I was out of the house, if I was near a library, if I was even street preaching. They were charging me, they were breaching me. A couple of my charges were cause disturbance for simply street preaching by myself at a busy intersection where there's traffic and pedestrians. Another breach was talking to a library manager that she was a known participant of these drag queen story hours, and I just wanted to communicate to her that this is a pervert grooming session, that I'm opposed to it, and that it offends me as the public, as a Christian man, as anybody with any kind of moral decency and moral backbone, that you're grooming children and protecting children in a public library. I was breached just talking to her. I don't even know who this person is. But then Derek Reimer, he must have known that she was a participant of Drag Queen Story Hours. So even again, preaching on an intersection by myself, the amplification of my voice traveled past an imaginary line, and people may have or may not have heard my voice, discouraging them to go to Drag Queen Story Hour. Therefore, that's a breach. Like, this is ridiculous. It's like the movie Minority Report or future crimes, but this is even worse because it's not even something that I'm committing in the future. This is just hypothetical convictions where now that's on my record. Even with the appeal of the harassment on the librarian whose feelings got hurt, because I referred to the event as pervert grooming sessions, the judge says that, oh, I'm releasing the mob on this poor librarian, and people have lost their lives over allegations and attacking people with these kinds of accusations. Well, she wasn't hurt, she wasn't injured, she wasn't attacked, she certainly wasn't killed. What am I being charged for? That I had a different opinion in communist Canada? Like, this is outrageous. Like, we're not allowed to oppose Drag Queen Story Hour any longer. Otherwise, we'll be canceled.
So what were you in court in today exactly for? What's the ongoing legal matter that's before the court?
Well, before you go there, I mean, you were convicted, you were imprisoned, you were found guilty. Then a judge, Fracham, found you not guilty, which was a shocker to the establishment because that's not what they were expecting. And now you still are facing double jeopardy, right? And then the appeals, and you're appealing the appeals. I mean, it's a complicated, ongoing craziness with ongoing prosecution and persecution of our Christian beliefs. So, before you go into what happened today, let the people know, what the judge found you not guilty of and why they're appealing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Seton Library, backing up, I was charged with mischief and causing a disturbance, and that was the protest where I was physically ejected out of the program's room. Justice Fradsham found me not guilty on both accounts. The Crown wasn't okay with this. They promptly appealed it. The appeal verdict went to a retrial. So we are appealing.
Yeah, but just second, it's very important for the people that are watching this to understand. So the judge, Fracham, watched the evidence. He looked into all the evidence of the case and found Derek Reimer not guilty. The appeal judge confessed in front of everyone that she did not watch the video. She doesn't know what the video has, and sided with the Crown prosecutor, believing whatever the Crown prosecutors are saying, and then struck down the not guilty verdict and is sending it to a retrial.
Exactly. And so that retrial decision, we are applying for an appeal. That was today. To give you an overview, it's been so far 105 days I've spent in jail. I've been on conditions. I think it's been now 2.5 years. We're going on 3 years. Being in jail, being on house arrest, being in jail. When I'm done house arrest in 2 months, I will have 2 subsequent years additionally on probation. So when it's all said and done, 58 months I'll be on condition, some way, shape, or form, for a disagreement about Drag Queen Story Hour with a librarian who has hurt feelings. This is outrageous. This is happening right now in Canada.
There is this powerful quote that comes to mind. If you want to know who is ruling over there, over here, over you and your children, look who you're not allowed to criticize, and that's exactly what we're witnessing right now in China, as we call it, behind the Iron Curtain. Right now, you're not allowed to disagree with pedophilia. You're not allowed to disagree with grooming of the children. You're not allowed to disagree with homosexual perversion. You're not allowed to disagree with transgenderism. You're not allowed to disagree with doctors chopping kids' parts. You're not allowed to disagree with anything that they view as their ideology. And that's not the democracy. That's not the republic. This is a soft police state. It's a dictatorship. And if Canadians will not wake up, if if we are not going to stop this and push this great evil away, then I want you to understand that Canada is going to turn itself into England, Germany, Ireland. Do you see what's happening in France? Have you paying attention to what is going on in Ireland? The chaos, the raping of children, because that's where we are heading. That those people have carte blanche and they can do whatever they want. They can pillage, they can murder, they can steal. I mean, look what is happening in Ontario right now. They are robbing stores during the day hours, and there is no one that is stopping them. They're breaking jewelry stores, attacking people, stealing, robbing, raping, pillaging, taking over the street. And it seems there's no police force that is willing to enforce the law and stop those stop those people from doing all those crazy things.
So, Derek, I have two very important questions. One is, do you think that you're at all being dramatic in the terminology that you use, that we use, when it comes to this very harsh language of of how we view these activities and these people, like perverts, grooming? What's your message to Christians also with using harsh language like this? Because a lot of people push back against, you're being too harsh, you're being too, you need to be kinder, softer. But what's your message to Christians when you use these kinds of terms?
Definitely. We have these words for a reason. So just even when we read through the Bible, there's a time and a place to use it. Even case in point, Matthew 23, Jesus calls them hypocrites 7 times. And so when people have certain behavior, it's appropriate to use certain words or certain verbiage. So if somebody kills somebody, they're a murderer. Somebody's unfaithful to their spouse, they're an adulterer. Or you're telling an untruth, you're a liar. So these are words to describe behavior, and it's even a biblical word to say they're perverse or they pervert, or even saying that they're perverts. Yeah, definitely, that they're distorted from their
So I'm really glad you went there, because the Bible uses these terms. So
definitely.
Christians that are saying don't use these terms, well, the Bible says the word perverse, and then calling someone perverse would also, linguistically, you could just say pervert. So these are biblical terms. And again, the government has gone after you for using these terms, for using this language, and you're literally reading out of the Bible. So they're not just attacking, and this is what I'm getting at here, is a very important point, because Christians and Canadians across our entire country make this mistake. They claim that there's no Christian persecution, but what do you call a government that effectively stops you from being able to practice Christianity as the Bible tells us to do it? So to speak against evil, to feed the homeless, like in the case of my dad, who has been charged and arrested for feeding the homeless. You have been in the same position, Derek. So what do you call it? What would you call this term if it's not Christian persecution, when there's so many laws that maybe outright don't say Christianity's banned, but effectively stop you from being a Christian and actually practicing what the Bible teaches?
Well, 100%. And just to kind of reiterate our point before, it talks about in King that there's a king of Israel that's removing the perverted persons from the land. Actually mentions it twice. So unfortunately, there's pastors and leaders that don't think that we're really suffering persecution here, because we're not getting shot to death like what's happening in Nigeria, which is sad. And they definitely need to be kept in our thoughts and our prayers. And or people getting their heads chopped off in the Middle East. And again, that's sad. But there's other forms and degrees of persecution. And this is just the degree of what we have in Western Christianity as of now. We're not at that place so much, popularly just killing an open season on Christians yet, but now it's fining, cancel culture. Obviously, with what happened with Charlie Kirk, that's more rare in the West, but yeah, it does happen. And then, of course, imprisoning Christians that are loud with their faith. Just like, look what happens with John the Baptist, he rebukes Herod Antipas that he can't have his brother's wife. And it also talks about in Luke, and it was highlighted to me that day, and all the other evil works that he had done. So all the evil works that he committed. John is rebuking all of that. So there is a place to rebuke our leaders and to the evil and the sin that our leaders are committing, and the policies that are dark and that are against God's will. And again, I'm just so flabbergasted. I'm so disgusted at the teachings in the church, how we're not supposed to be political, and they uphold it like it's the 11th commandment. And we have to come out of that spell and that deception to not be political. How are we supposed to change the direction of our country or our city if we're not supposed to be, politically focused, or go out and vote, or even go and run for office? So Art, that's why I've appreciated you, where you've started a party, you've been an advocate in the political arenas, and we need more of that in the churches. So thank you by leading by.
Yeah. By the way, Solidarity Movement of Alberta, I have been struggling within my own heart what I am to do. And Derek, telling you the truth, I am so sick and tired of the corruption and the apathy in the church and apathy in the Christendom as a whole, that I had those thoughts, why bother? Why even go through the motions? Why pay the price? Why, spend money? And, maybe it would be better to just take a vacation instead of, sowing into this field. However, more and more, God is putting back that zeal, that fire in my heart, that I have decided I will be running for political office in the next provincial election. We will need over 70 candidates. So I'm going to be letting you know a year in advance that if you care about our province, if you care about the future of our children, I will be looking for candidates, and I intend to put every candidate in every riding, and it will be up to the people. It's like my wife, Majana, constantly reminds me, including Monday when we went to vote. Tell you the truth, I look around and I said, my God, most of them are really wicked people. There's no one really to vote for that has a chance of winning. But we still did our duty. We did vote. But she kept, she keeps reminding me this, and sometimes I forget about that. That in the end of the day, we have to do our part in order for God to judge a nation. In other words, the church is required to do our best, and God will do the rest. Before he judges a society, before he judges a nation, he requires the church to do its part. So we have to cleanse ourselves. We have to be ready. We have to do our thing. We have to shine in darkness. And when we do everything that we can do, then God steps in and he judges the evil, the wickedness of the land. So I will be moving forward with this. Solidarity Movement of Alberta is still a registered, a legal party in the province of Alberta, and I intend to run in the next provincial election. I'll be looking for good candidates. So Derek, if you will be available or willing, well, it would be an honor to have you part of our party to run and to be able to go and debate and talk about those important issues that it feels like the church has forgotten about. But going back to your story, Derek, today we went in your support. We went to the court. I was expecting to go before the judge. I was like in normal cases, you have a right to an attorney, you have a right to a speedy trial, you have a right, where are our rights right now? And they did it, through what was how do they call this, WebEx? WebEx, like a Zoom call. Seriously, that's the justice of 21st century in Canada, through a Zoom call? That's where you're seeking for justice, through a computer screen? I mean, I was so disgusted. I was so upset, because it's an indication of how far we have fallen from the normal, when the judges and the lawyers are arguing right now through a stupid computer screen, without the human interaction, without looking into people's eyes and being able to, to have that. I mean, being a lawyer, you cannot. Okay, maybe I'm mistaken, but as a pastor, I'm going to tell you this. I believe you cannot be as successful with human interactions on a Zoom as you would be normally face to face, with a physical touch, with being able to be in the same room. people act differently when they are in person, and they act differently when they are on a computer screen. And and that's why I believe it was so evil and so wrong to what they did to us during the COVID era. But it looks like it's coming back. It looks like your case is proving that maybe that's what they want. Maybe they don't want Christians in the court, because we do pray, we do worship. You did Lord's Supper. Every time you come to the court, you have, with all of us, a Lord's Supper right at the courthouse, right where the judges are presiding, which is so powerful. Because you got to remember, during the big lie, what did they attack? Gathering. They attacked Lord's Supper, and they attacked worship and prayer. And they are, in my opinion, they want to bring this craziness back.
Yeah, so some of the most memorable times the last 2.5 years has been gathering at the courthouse, having church, worshiping our God, speaking, and just encouraging one another. And then, of course, having communion right there in the courtroom, where there's sheriff present, the crown prosecutor, uh, the madam clerk. they're all sitting there, and we're praying, and we're partaking of the Lord's body and blood. It's been beautiful. And I thank God for some of these moments where we can be a light right there in some of the arguably the darkest place in our city. But just to kind of finish off before I got to head out here in a few minutes, I just want to talk about what I'm facing right now. And this is kind of arguably the last hurdle before I complete my house arrest in the next 2 months. They are demanding, imposed on me, that I apologize to the librarian with her feelings hurt. And this poses a great issue, where if somebody is offended because I have a different political view, or I have a different opinion, or I have a different religious perspective, we cannot be apologizing for people that are bothered by that. Like I preach every Wednesday to about 500 people. Like, I'm not seeking out who's offended and saying, well, I'm sorry that you don't like my preaching, or preaching on Saturday street preaching to the 80 homeless or to the people walking by. I'm not seeking out finding who's all offended with my preaching and my thoughts. That's just the society. That's just the way life is. We all have different thoughts. And I thought we lived in a democracy where we could share differences, but evidently not. Where now I have it right here in front of me, where the case plan goals of my PO was, and I quote, subject struggles with seeing others' viewpoints, working with him in terms of breaking down traditional thoughts pertaining to the LGBTQ2 plus community. Wow. So I have struggles seeing other people's viewpoints, but they don't have struggles seeing my viewpoint, as they're court ordering me to apologize, as they're trying to break down my traditional thoughts, because these traditional thoughts, they're too radical for this new country of communism and totalitarianism that we've entered into. That's too much for them in this left-leaning justice system that is now by law making me do this. And if I don't do it, I'm going to jail. So it's been some tough conversations in that. My wife,
again, to the viewers, we're not being dramatic when we say Christianity is under persecution in Canada. The judicial system is now effectively forcing you to issue an apology. They've made it very clear, which I'm glad they did. At least they've made it open and clear. It's not hidden anymore. And honestly, I think you should maybe publish that letter or get it out there as far as possible, because the judicial system is now telling you that your traditional views, your biblical views on marriage, on gay, whatever, LGBT, all that stuff, that is unacceptable. And the judicial system is now going to condition you and change your mind on your beliefs. So your religious beliefs are entirely under attack, fundamentally under attack, and they're forcing you, or prison. So what kind of freedom do we have to be Christians, to actually do what the Bible tells us? We don't. I mean, of the three of us, 66% have been to prison for doing what the Bible says, for just enacting what the Bible tells us to do. So this isn't being dramatic. This isn't exaggerating. These are just the facts. I mean,
Well,
you showed the letter.
You can't exclude yourself. I mean, you have been detained, 12, 14 times for just testifying before the European Parliament about what Christians are going through here in Canada, and for that reason, you have been detained every time you cross the border.
Fortunately, that was dropped. But I'm just saying, like, of the three of us, two of us are pastors who have been to prison for being pastors, for doing what God has led them to do, what they felt called to do through the Holy Spirit. So, Derek, I know you have to go soon. So just give us your final thoughts and what you hope to see from the church. I mean, right now we're doing this show, and many people that are watching are Christians, are people that go to church, and are Canadians. And of course, there's international viewers. A lot of people from the US watch. So what's your message to all these people watching?
I just want to encourage people to rise up, speak up, be bold with their faith. With Charlie Kirk, this wave of revival that's taking place, and I know it's ignited momentum and a movement around the world. So let's ride that wave. Let's be encouraged. Let's be bold. Let's be courageous. Like, you're alive for such a time as this. Like, just like what are we gonna do? Beg for our freedom and go and sit in our basements and twiddle our thumbs and just make sure we're quiet and we don't say anything because we don't want to offend the leftist judicial system, and we don't want to go to jail. So I'll even remind everybody, with my last incarceration, I went to jail for 2 months for going to court when a court ordered to go, and we went and worshiped God. Then that was an unapproved church service, my PO said, and I went to court a little bit too early. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, what are we doing here? And also now they put me into a violence prevention course where it says these are people who were previously part of negative groups and negative belief systems. So they're going to tell us what our negative belief systems are all about, and they're going to re-educate us. They want to break down our traditional thinking. They want to force us to capitulate, compromise, apologize, that you're wrong, you're the monster, you're the bad guy, you offended the left, you offended those who are protecting the groomers and those who are sexualizing your children in the public libraries, and you better not come in here and say otherwise. You better bow down and bend the knee, otherwise you'll be in jail as well. And I say, well, then fine. Then I guess we'll be in jail, and then we'll witness to those that are in jail. But we're not going to compromise, and we're not going to bow down to this agenda. I'm so tired of churches, Christians compromising and allowing the world to affect their church more than their church affecting the world. And now's the time. Look at how dark this hour is, and we got to shine. And I want to verse actually with Ephesians 5:11. This is where the whole movement was based off this verse. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. And we're going to continue to expose them and preach the truth in love, and to rebuke this sin, that we do not have to tolerate this, and we won't.
And Derek, thank you so much for being with us. And I just want to say, just with that statement that you read of that PO officer, that judicial statement, of them trying to condition you to basically rethink your traditional views and to rethink your beliefs on LGBT. You have done just that. You have exposed the system for what it is, and that is backing this ideology. And like my dad said with that famous quote, when you know who's ruling you, when you find out who you're not allowed to criticize. And now we're not allowed to criticize that group of people, that ideology. And by doing what you're doing, you have now exposed it for what it is. And there can be no denying for any Christian or Canadian in our entire country to say that the judicial system is not influenced by this ideology. Due process is gone, our charter is gone, Bill of Rights is gone, and it's been replaced by this communist left-wing gender ideology. And that's the state we're in right now. And just thank you for letting us know through your entire story that this is where we're at as a nation.
Yeah, Derek, in our books, you are a hero. We will support you as much as we can, and looking forward to do some other events with you. And when you're in court, let us know. We'll keep letting the whole world know what is happening in China, behind the Iron Curtain, under the boots of this sick, perverted ideology that we are dealing with right now. So I know you have another interview. So God bless, and I'll talk to you soon.
God bless. Thanks again. See ya.
Well, that reminds me, Nathaniel, of my compelled speech order, right? When Adam Germain, the crooked judge in the province of Alberta, demanded that me and David and Chris Scott from the Whistle Stop Cafe, three of us, we were subjected to a compelled speech order when that crooked judge, Adam Germain, said it that we must, by his ruling, by his court order, recite the government approved a letter uh, of insanity because that's what it was, a letter of insanity. And I said it then, and I'm going to say it again, that we were called to preach the truth, not to indoctrinate people, not to manipulate people, not to preach lies. That's their domain. They have already CBC for that, CNN for that, and other mainstream propaganda machinery. They have their crooked judges and crown prosecutors like Stephen Johnston that lies the moment he wakes up, or the so-called politicians. They already have liars. They don't need more liars, but they want to turn us into liars. And I refuse. I talked to Derek today, Nathaniel, about this because he's praying about it, because for him at this moment it's a very serious matter. He might go back to prison. So what is he to do? And it's a real tangible question. Well, that reminds me of my last a big event, a conference in United States before I was arrested on the tarmac. I remember God put on my heart this story of Martin Luther, the German monk. He was not just a German monk; he was a professor teaching in university. Like he was a high up in the hierarchy. He was very well known. He had a huge support, and I remember the story when he was taken to prison, when he was facing his prosecutors and persecutors. You know the in, you know the this hunters of Christians, when they told him very openly that if he will recount, they gave him another opportunity. They gave him an option, just like Nebuchadnezzar did, in front of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He says, "Well, I'm giving you a second chance, and who will be able to get you guys out of my hands?" Right? That's what he said. And the same thing, the same offer, if you will, I received. The same offer Martin Luther received, and Derek Reimer. Just do the right thing, right? Stay home, put the muzzle on, be a good dog on a leash, and then we will let you live. Martin Luther, I'll never forget that, because I knew I'm going to be arrested, and I was stepping out of the plane on the tarmac, like El Chapo of Calgary, Al Capone of Canada. I remember that last conference when I said to the gathered, and there was thousands of people there, and I said, "Well, I will quote what Martin Luther, the German pastor, said before his accusers when they ask him to recount. He says, "I cannot and I will not recount." And that was so refreshing. That was so amazing that here is a man facing a brutal execution. Those people will not just kill him, they would make him suffer unbelievable torture, unbelievable pain, and they would probably burn him on a stake in the end after they tortured him. And he still looked into their eyes and he said those famous words. Well, I said the same thing with David, your uncle, when we said, "Judge, I hope you're listening. I will never obey your order. You can send your sheriffs, you can arrest me, but I cannot obey your order, because that would mean that I have to lie to the people before I can tell them the truth. You're ordering me to lie to them. I cannot do that as a pastor." And your uncle David did the same thing. He said he's not going to obey. Now Derek Reimer is another in a line of of the Christians that are prosecuted and persecuted in Canada, that is receiving the same offer. When I was in jail,
And that is what it is, because you've had this multiple times in a proceeding where the judge basically demands an apology or demands an apology letter. And that's really what it is. It's not an I mean, what kind of forced apology is meaningful? Why are they doing like I'm trying to wrap my head around it, just like as rational human beings, what does sorry, the camera is going crazy. AI nowadays. What an interesting topic.
You had a good. Now you have to do it again. Just take the camera out. You're too close.
Here, I'll take myself out.
While you're, fixing your camera, do you remember, guys, that when I was in jail, Crown Prosecutor, this lying, deceiving, manipulative Crown Prosecutor Stephen Johnston, he gave me an offer, and twice, if I say I'm sorry, that they will drop all the other charges and I'll be able to go home. And I said to the lawyers, and I said to the media, and I said to the whole world multiple times, and that was the front page, a nationwide story, that Pastor Artur Pawlowski refuses to apologize. He says he's not sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. I have nothing to be sorry about. I stood with the hurting Canadians. I stood for their lives. I stood for the future of their children. I have nothing to apologize for. Those lying, deceiving politicians should apologize to us. Those lying Crown prosecutors like Stephen Johnston, they should go to their knees and cry out for mercy. Those crooked judges like Adam Germain or David Gates or Gordon Krinky, or there is a list of crooked judges, or the mainstream propaganda indoctrinators, or the rogue woke teachers. They should apologize for what they're doing to free Canadians. We have nothing to apologize for. But you see, they're threatening him. They were threatening me. You will rot in prison. Remember, Crown Prosecutor Stephen Johnston, the liar, said I will be there for 2 years at least. Well, the same thing they're doing to Derek Reimer. They are scaring him, they're threatening him and his wife and their little baby that he's going to go back to prison if he will not recount.
And
Well,
so, and
I
and
can't,
to-
a
to that-
second. I can't speak for Derek Reimer. That will be his decision, and I will support his decision. If you have not been under the boot of a totalitarian regime in prison, you have no right to criticize either way. But if I was in his shoes, okay, that's just me, not Derek Reimer. If I was in his shoes, Nathaniel, I would never ever apologize, because I would have nothing to apologize for. What Derek Reimer did is good. He exposed pedophilia. He exposed grooming of the children. During the proceedings, which Nathaniel, I go to the proceedings quite often when Derek is being taken through the ringer. We've learned out of their own mouth, out of the mouth of the horse's mouth, that they were playing, Nathaniel, dress up with toddlers. So you've got an adult male dressed as a woman with lipstick and wig, the whole 9 yards, okay, as perverted you can be, playing dress up with little children, while at the same time 12 adults are watching you. How perverted is this, man? This is an abomination. This is Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. And then here is another twist in a story that we learned through the proceedings, that the security guards, every library has security. Do you know, Nathaniel, that security guards were not allowed to go to wherever this craziness, this grooming of the children was happening, in the basement? This was being done in the basement, and the security guards were told that they are not allowed to enter the room. So you've got 12 adults watching little children undressing themselves, and then you've got a man dressed as a woman doing it with the children and watching it. And Derek Reimer is the one that is being told that he has to apologize. Never ever they would hear apology from Artur Pawlowski. I will never say I'm sorry, because there is nothing to be sorry about, except I'm sorry that those perverted adults are actually doing this to children.
And to the point I was trying to make earlier, what is a forced apology? I mean, like, if you force someone to apologize to you, is that sincere? It's like forcing someone to love you. Does that make it real love, or does forcing someone to apologize make it a sincere apology where they will repent and not do it again? That doesn't mean anything. Forcing someone to apologize, an apology has to come from the individual. So I'm just trying to rationalize in my own head why the judicial system, that's, so learned, they're so smart, why they would force someone to make an apology. I don't understand it. I mean, a recommendation would make sense. I could understand that in a sentencing where the judge says, I recommend maybe you think about your actions, and you maybe, if you hurt someone or something, you issue an apology letter. I can understand. I could get behind that. But to force someone to do an apology is the same thing that they're doing. I was reading Fox's Voice of the Martyrs or Jesus Freaks. It's the same thing that they were doing to these persecuted Christians, these martyrs. They were forcing them, hey, say you're sorry. Say you're sorry for what you were doing for Jesus, for your beliefs, for Christianity's sake. Recant. They would say, recant. Just worship the Roman gods, or worship these other gods, and we won't hurt you. We won't kill you. You can go free today. This whole thing can be over for you. And they said no. Every single one of those martyrs said, no, I will not. I cannot. And of course, they were put to death, which is what makes them martyrs. So I wouldn't have blamed them if they did recant, though. And that's what you were saying earlier. If you did issue an apology, like, you can't, unless you're in that position, you have no right to judge. You have no right, because you're not in that position. You don't have your little children on the line in the Colosseum to be slaughtered, or to be thrown in a dungeon for 10 years. You don't know what you're talking about until you are on that witness stand. If you're being cross-examined by the prosecutor, until you are being told by a judge that you have to apologize. However, not doing that is the noble thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And those martyrs of old, they did just that. They did not apologize, and they went to their deaths, or to prison, and to other forms of persecution, torture. And that is their glory. The Bible talks about this. You will be persecuted. You will be put to jail, put to death. You will be going to jail for my sake. Jesus talks about this. And this is the only thing that I can that's the only explanation for forcing an apology. When that judge read that order to you, forcing you to apologize, or the letter that Derek Reimer just read to us, that is the same thing as them telling you, deny the faith, deny what you did, deny, recant.
100%.
And
But I'll
it's
tell
just,
you why.
it's crazy.
But I know why they're doing this. Because you're a generation that grew up in relative peace and in democracy. I grew up in hell, and that's exactly what they were doing in hell. They were forcing you to recant. They were forcing you to say you're sorry, or to accept other ideology that, normally, not under duress, you would never submit yourself into, but for the sake of the family, the children, job, or whatever, your life. Some people would say, okay, I want to continue, I want to live, and they would obey the orders. But why they're doing this? Because they're sending a message. Nathaniel, this is so clear to me. They're sending a message to other Derek Reimers. If you will not align yourself, you're next. Look what we have done to Artur Pawlowski. If we can do this to a pastor, you know what we can do to you? 360 citations, over 120 court cases, so many arrests, house arrests. Look, Derek Reimer, 3.5 years already for nothing. And the state, invested millions of dollars already into this prosecution and persecution of Derek Reimer.
I mean, what a
My
sham! What a
my
sham
case-
of a judicial system that forces an apology and forces you to deny biblical views, forces you to reject these traditional, these archaic forms of belief, like they phrase it, on LGBT rights or whatever they they say.
But it
What
doesn't
a
matter, Nathaniel.
sham.
It doesn't matter if it's traditional or not. In the end of the day, who cares? Tradition, this and that. Those are godly. Those are God standards. Men's tradition means nothing in comparison to God's law. We're not
But it's
talking about men.
it's the language that they're using. They're using, these traditional, these archaic views, these narrow-minded views. What are you talking about? These aren't my views. These aren't Derek Reimer's views. Okay, I'll pick up a Bible and throw it at you. I'll tell you where these views come from. They come from the Bible. They come from the Word of God,
But you see,
which
the
is not
very
from-
Bible.
I didn't write it. I didn't write. If you're angry at me, you're angry at the wrong person. I didn't write the Bible.
But you see, the very Bible that they ask you to swear before the proceedings, I find is so ironic that you go before the judge and he's asking you to swear on what? On the Bible. And yet the very word of God that they have rejected from the beginning to the end and replaced with some woke rogue, hybrid of communism, socialism, and fascism in this weird, with a skirt kind of a perversion that we have right now. This hybrid that I don't know, a Roman revived empire we can compare to. But I like what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, because, and I hope and I pray that that's what Derek Reimer is going to do. I mean, that's up to him, and I'll support him either way. I'm not going to be, in my heart, I understand the pressure, I understand the fear of hurting and all of that stuff. But I pray and I hope that God will give him the strength to say what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said. And they said, "Oh no, this, oh great king, that our God is perfectly able." In other words, he's able to rescue us from your fiery furnace. But if he chooses not to, know this, O great king, that we will never bow before your golden statue. And that's exactly how was my approach. I will not bow before your golden muzzle. I will not bow before your golden leash. I will not bow before your corruption, your lying, your cheating, just so I will not have to feel the pinch.
And
Sometimes
I will not recant. See, that's the thing that this apology mandate, this demand of an apology, that's what it is. It's telling you recant, reject those views, reject that ideology that you subscribe to, otherwise, in quotes, the Bible. That's what they're saying. They're telling you recant what Martin Luther was told to do, and he says, I cannot recant. Like
Yeah,
those
but
martyrs of old, they said, I
communism-
cannot.
communism is the same thing. I mean, there are thousands of stories, Nathaniel, from the time I was growing up, when the Communist Party was forcing people to recant. Look at the Nazis, the same thing. Just embrace the Nazi Party and you will be fine. Just embrace the communism and you will be fine. Just join the Nazi Party or join the Communist Party and you will be fine. Join the, perversion party or perverted party, whatever you want to call it, the uni party, and you will be fine. Just like be like everybody else. Well, Christians are not supposed to be like everybody else. The Bible calls us peculiar people. Peculiar people. We are not supposed to be in bed with Delilahs. We're not supposed to be in bed with the darkness. We are supposed to shine. And we'll see when the story is going to take us, but the world deserves to know what is happening and what the difference between Canada and United States. As you know, I just got back from United States of America and I had a great time. I was invited to the Capitol. Can you believe it? Here, I'm being hunted down like an animal for being a Christian. In Tennessee, I was greatly honored by the governor of Tennessee, Mr. Lee. When we with Dale Walker, we were invited to see him and pray with him. He prayed with us. We prayed for him. We had a great conversation, great talk. And then I was invited to preach for over 2 hours at the courthouse. Can you imagine me sitting at the judge's seat and then giving an expose of what's happening, a little bit of a testimony, a little bit of a background, and letting people know what is happening in Canada in front of the most powerful people in the county. There was a sheriff, district attorney, state representatives, right in the courthouse. Because in Tennessee, they want godliness. They want good things coming their way. In Canada, it looks like the society is going opposite direction. They hate what's good. They hate what's decent. They hate the truth. They hate God and, all the things that God is bringing with him. Quite often I say to the people, if you want liberty, bring God of liberty. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. If you want liberty, bring God back to your society, back to your family, back to your city, back to your country. When he shows up with blessing. He shows up with healing. He shows up with freedom. Nathaniel, historically speaking, the freedom of religion always is attacked first before any dictatorship takes over. I find it fascinating, and that reminds me of what happened with the charitable tax status. We're not going to talk about this, but remember the letter from CRA? They said the board of directors speaks negatively. So if we were speaking positively, if we were part of the proper ideological club, then we would be perfectly okay. But because we spoke negatively, according to them, about political issues, and they cited abortion. Since when abortion is a political issue? It's a moral issue. Thou shalt not murder. And homosexuality. Since when? This is a political issue. Sodom and Gomorrah learned what God thinks about this perversion. And then they cited also divorce. Out of all the things, they cited those three: divorce, homosexuality, and abortion. I find this
and now that letter that Derek just read shows that the top of their list is that LGBT stuff. That's what the judicial system is so concerned with. While you were in the US getting honored and having this amazing experience, Tamara Leach and Chris Barber were sentenced. So one country is going in a better direction, the right direction, and then the other country, as if to spite the United States, they're saying we will not change. We will, in fact, we'll ramp it up. We'll go even worse. We'll arrest pastors. We'll sentence the people responsible for this peaceful movement that happened during COVID, the trucker convoy, the protest in Ottawa. Let's sentence them.
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking, but we have to understand all the whys. First of all, the first question: who is doing this to us? Well, the globalists. They have agenda. They're telling you will own nothing and you will be happy. Well, for you to own nothing, that means they have to steal everything away from you. And of course, the society is not going to hand them, take my house, take my property, take my bank account. I wish that you, a modern day pharaohs, would have everything and that we would be enslaved. Of course, that's not how it works. So they have to steal it from you. They have to rob you. And that's exactly what we are witnessing right now. So the globalists, this is done intentionally. This is not by accident. It's not that those people do not what they are doing. They actually know precisely what they are doing. This is a controlled demolition of a country. And we see this in Australia, we see this in New Zealand, we see this in England, France, Ireland, burning, and Germany, right? They want to do the same thing to Poland. Then why? Why they needed to send a message to others? Why they needed to sentence? I think they got 18 months house arrest and some ridiculous probation and curfew and all kinds of different things. Chris Barber and Tamara Leach, the longest ongoing mischief trial in a history of the world, I would say, probably for sure in the history of Canada. And they got, I think, 18 months. Why? Because again, totalitarian regimes are sending a message to others. If you dare to oppose us peacefully, see, you can pillage, you can murder, you can do what the Islamists are doing in Ontario, taking over the streets and causing chaos. You can burn stuff up like it's happening in England and Ireland and France. That's perfectly protected by your freedom of expression. However, if you do it peacefully, then you will be hunted down by authorities. Why? Because they want chaos. They don't want law-abiding citizens. They don't want Christians. Christians do not pillage. Christians don't burn stuff up. Christians don't murder people. They don't want those types of citizens, because you got to remember the end game. And the end game, they have told us many, many years ago, out of chaos. So they're creating chaos out of chaos, their order will come. They need chaos, they need slaughter, they need murder so they can implement their control. That's what the whole thing is all about.
So I want to talk about mischief, because you were found guilty under mischief. Now Tamara and Chris have been found guilty under mischief. And I want to talk about Derek's charges too, causing a disturbance, harassment. There's a book. It's called 3 Felonies a Day. I started reading it today, and it is, I highly recommend it. I haven't even finished the book, and I highly recommend it. It's called 3 Felonies a Day, How the Feds Target the Innocents, by a lawyer, Harvey Silverglate. And the premise is that there's so many laws, so many vague, unclear, ambiguous laws on the books that they can effectively look at any single person and charge that person with 3 felonies every single day. And he did research on it. He was a lawyer for a long time. He's read so many cases. They could look at any single person, just pick a man, like your famous saying that you have said so many times, pick a man. This is what you grew up under, a communist system that says, give me a man and I'll find something on that man. Now we live in a system, and this is an American. How much more so in Canada, when we have even more laws on the books that are vague, unclear, ambiguous, and can be used in any way the establishment wants, because the ruling party dictates what those laws mean. So mischief, causing a disturbance, harassment, those things are ambiguous, they're vague, they're not clear, and they can be used however the ruling party wants and to push the ideology that they want. So right now they are for LGBT stuff. They are for abortion. They are for divorce. So how do they utilize those laws? They use those laws to go after people that go against their ideology. So if people are anti-LGBT, meaning just that they're telling what the Bible says, which is that it's a sin, that they're pro-life, like the Bible says, killing innocent, killing unborn is murder. Just saying that, they will use laws against you to stop you from putting out this ideology that they're against. So this is a very dangerous place. And the book talks about this. Again, I highly recommend it, because they can do this to anyone. If they can do this to a pastor, how much more so they can do it to you, just a regular person who's not a pastor. Because if pastors are not protected, how much just a regular person can get charged under this stuff? And
yeah, but at the same
right now, Tamara and Chris are not pastors. See, first they went for the pastors. First they went after you and other people that were speaking out, very outspoken, like Tim Stevens, Coates, other pastors, Hildebrand, Tobias. They went after the pastors, and they were kind of the front runners. And why are they the front runners? Because they're the most outspoken, because they have convictions that are not from themselves, it's from God. And these people, pastors like yourself, were the first kind of to go down, and people didn't really do anything. They just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a bad thing, I guess. And then they went after the truckers. Then the truckers started being arrested. Then regular people that were just part of the crowd started being arrested and charged. And now we have precedent in our country that they can go after you for anything, like literally virtually anything. As someone who loves the law, I love the law. I love studying the law. I truly do. This is so sad, because the law is a beautiful thing. God established law. God established government. And if you don't believe me, and you're a Christian who doesn't agree that the law, that paying taxes, that government is actually instituted by God, well, then you haven't read your Bible. And I recommend that you start from Genesis and end at Revelation, so that you can fix your view, because God established government. God established the law. And it's a beautiful thing. And now people have abused it, and they're causing this decay of a system. I mean, what a mockery of a judicial system that concerns itself what views you have on LGBT rights. They're gonna try to brainwash Pastor Derek Reimer to have different views on LGBT rights. That's not law. That's not justice. That is not what I am passionate about. That is not what the judicial system is supposed to be. That's a mockery. That's a sham. That's politics. That's ideology. And if you look deeper, as you can clearly see it, us Canadians who were born in Canada, we have to look a little bit deeper. You see it as it is, which is communism. We have to look underneath and say, oh, this is communism that's hiding. You see it clearly because you grew up under that. And that's why your voice, your story is so important because you have authority behind your voice. You can tell people, hey, I grew up under communism and this stinks like communism.
Yeah.
I have to teach people and say, well, this is what communism is, and this is exactly what they're doing. You have life experience, and that's maybe why you are one of the first people to be targeted, why they're going after you so hard, because you have lived experience, you have authority, you actually have back it's what's the word I'm looking for, proof. It's, you have evidence of your own life as to what they're doing because you lived through it, you lived through that hell.
100%. I mean, not only that, Nathaniel, not that I can recognize a totalitarian regime, because once, Nathaniel, you've tasted, you cannot shake it off. You cannot shake it off. You will never forget the feeling of living under a boot of a totalitarian regime. There is no way you can shake it off. That's why so many millions of people escaped from their countries to America, to Australia, to find freedom. And that freedom is under attack as well. Also, not only because people like me have seen hell, if you will, but we also, Nathaniel, experience the remedy. And I think that scares those devils more than anything else, because it's very easy to have a soapy story. Poor me, this is what happened to me. Many people have a soap stories. Many people went through hell back and forth, but not many people can articulate the remedy. Okay, what is the solution here? How we can fix this? And there's no point of going back in time and saying, if Albertans would only listen to us a few years ago, if Albertans would elect our party, Alberta would completely look differently today. However, the remedy is still the same. And I saw it with your mom. We saw it in the 80s, from 80 to 89, when the Polish people did it the right way. They did it peacefully under solidarity banner with Lech Wałęsa. They took it to the streets and they paralyzed their totalitarian system by simply refusal to cooperate. I mean, that's the power. What is the most valuable thing, Nathaniel, in life? Time. That's the most valuable thing. If you don't give them time, if you don't work for the wannabe pharaoh, it's over for the pharaoh. That's it. Why do you think Egypt was destroyed completely when God set the captives free, the Israelites, from the grip of a totalitarian regime at the Red Sea moment? Because the system lost money, they lost their slaves, they lost their force, and they could not pick themselves up. And that's exactly what the solidarity movement did. They simply said, okay, we will not help you to hurt us anymore. Is that not so simple? I mean, think about it. We will not help you to steal from us and our children anymore. We will not allow you to do it because there is more of us than there is of you.
I mean,
And
the
moment that
the teachers strike. This is important. I don't want to get into the politics of the teachers strike that's going on in Alberta right now. Quite frankly, that's their business. I have no skin in the game, so I can't even speak to that. But I find it interesting that the government is telling them they have to go back to work. So not going to work in order to get, they want a pay raise or whatever, not going back to work is effective. And now the government is actually telling them, okay, you got to go back. You got to go back to work now. It's been too long. So it just shows I'm only using that example to show the effectiveness of what you're talking about. And your voice is, the word I was looking for earlier is credible. You're too credible because you saw what communism is, what it does, the signs of it. You went through it, you can recognize it, and you saw the fix, you saw the remedy, like what you're talking about right now. But it's so effective.
There is more, Nathaniel. I don't know if you know, but under communism, not working was illegal. And if you would refuse to work,
that's exactly my point. And that's why this is a dangerous precedent that they're saying is you can't not work, right? Like now that's, some exception for teachers or whatever. I don't really understand the statutes or whatever that it's under, but if they can apply this, to office jobs, to public workers, to government workers, like they can expand this where basically if you don't go to work, you're breaking the law. And that's what they want to do. Why? Because if you do a workers strike, you do unionize or however you want to call it, where you don't go to work, it's too effective. It's too dangerous because you can actually paralyze your system.
It's powerful. It's powerful. In Poland under communism, if you were caught not working, so if the law enforcement agent, police officer stops you, and you have to provide not only your name, but where do you work. If you don't have work, if you're not employed, you can go to prison. And many people went to prison just because they were not working. And why? Because the system only survives on the back of the slaves. Every totalitarian regime, every dictatorship, every, wannabe pharaoh system survives only because of the slaves. The moment the slaves realize how powerful they are, that the only thing that is keeping them from, securing their victory, their freedom, is their chains. Give up your chains. And yes, you will hurt a little bit more for a month, for a year, but then you will be able to regain a lot more in the near future. And Poland is a perfect example of a nation that has been, economically speaking, right now, the most prosperous nation from the communist bloc. Poland is thriving financially. Poland is one of the few countries, for those that are interested, that is on the top if it comes to buying gold. The Bank of Poland is buying more gold than most of the countries around the world. Poland is economically blessed. Polish people have more than enough. The police officer, as you know, our cousin, a high-ranking police officer, that just retired, he was making 12,000 a month. That's like $12,000 a month. That's more than enough to have a very prosperous, very good life. So people, it's capitalism. It's open. You can do things. You're not hunted down by communists.
So I want to read a quote that actually goes right to that. It's a Polish woman, and she said this actually just yesterday. She writes, "I'm Polish. My husband is British. I escaped Poland 15 years ago. Now he wants to escape Britain and aspires to get a Polish passport." How the tables have turned.
Yes. And
so the British people are experiencing what you experienced as a young person in Poland under communism. And now British people are saying, we need out of here because this has gone so bad. This has reached the level where we can no longer survive as a nation because we don't have any rights. I mean, there's reporters being arrested left and right. There's Christians being arrested. Tommy Robinson, there's the country is fallen.
It's completely
it's
gone.
A joke.
Britain is gone. Ireland is gone. Germany is gone. France is gone. I said this for a number of years. I saw the writing on the wall, if you will. I mean, there is hope. However, it will require shedding of the blood.
It will require millions of people.
Without a revolution, I just don't see them turning this around. There's also another thing. If they would be willing to receive it, inviting God back into their country, because when the Polish people did it, and the Polish people did it the right way, they took it to the streets, they paralyzed their system, so they disabled, if you will, their ability to hurt them in the long run, and they invited God into the strike, God into their protests, into their manifestations, and God, he took that invitation and came to the rescue, and Poland is a thriving nation. But they're not happy with Poland because I'm sure you are aware that they're bringing busloads of illegal immigrants and dumping them at the Polish border because they want to destabilize Poland as well. They want to destroy that country as well. They've destroyed Europe. Now they want to destroy Poland, the last Alamo standing, if you will. But going back to Canada, it's not all lost, because the Bible is very clear that the truth shall set the captives free. He also says that my people are perishing because of lack of knowledge. They don't have the information. They are not looking for the right information. They're not seeking wisdom from God. Therefore, they're being wiped out. But that's why we're doing the shows. That's why we're constantly talking, because we want to educate the people. And if Albertans, which I find is unbelievable, that Albertans are hurting the most from within the Confederation. And I'm still shocked, Nathaniel, that Albertans have the biggest number on defaulting on credit cards. Albertans are hurting. Thousands upon thousands of people are looking for jobs, and there are no jobs here in Alberta. So the teachers, in a way, I understand what they're trying to do, but part of me, Nathaniel, says, well, good for you. You are woke, rogue, indoctrinating children, turning them into crazy, and you did it. The teachers, I am to blame the teachers for doing this to our children. When there was a time for the teachers to stand up, they didn't. Now they're under the same boot, because also people have to understand, Nathaniel, that under a totalitarian regime,
Everyone's
everyone becomes a victim. Everyone. The police officers that are helping them in Britain and Ireland, they're arresting patriots, they're arresting white people, they're protecting pedophiles. This girl was just raped, 10-year-old. They are arresting journalists. They are responsible for bringing this totalitarian regime upon their own people that they swore to protect. But in the end of the day, they have to understand that the history is teaching us that they will become a victim of the very master that they are serving today, and their children are going to pay dearly for what they are doing to others today. Those people do not realize, because today they got the salary, today they're protected, they got the gun, they got the taser, they can do harm, they can do lots of bad things to lots of people in the name of the law. They can arrest you, they can imprison you, they got crooked judges, and the media is supporting them. But in the end of the day, when everything is said and done, they will come after the useful idiots. That's history. They will come after the cops. They will come after those crooked journalists. They will come after those judges. They will come after everyone, because this is a beast that it's eating itself. In the end of the day, evil eats evil. You think that they are at peace with each other? Those principalities, those powers, they fight with each other as well. There is a rat race in every totalitarian regime. I mean, look at what happened in Roman Empire. Look at the Babylonian. I mean, the whole Bible is one king that was killed by another dude that became a king, and he was slaughtered later on. I mean, that's the history of mankind. And in communism, it's identical. In fascism, Nazi, the same thing. It was a rat race. They were killing each other, and then they were not just stopping with you. They were killing your children. They were killing your wives. They were going after your family members, your friends. Hitler purged hundreds of thousands of people, not few thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Stalin purged millions, tens of millions of his own people were slaughtered, because he was afraid that someone might jeopardize his power. So, in the end of the day, people have to realize. So, teachers, you're hurting right now. I get it. I gave you an option a few years ago to vote for our party. You chose this party. You have no right to complain. You decided to teach children woke, rogue, crazy things. And now the very beast that you were supporting for all those years is eating you up. How you change that? You change this. You stop this by stopping from supporting the beast that is hurting you.
So this actually transitions us to our last topic, really, which is I want to talk about politics. At the end, I want you to give a quick update on your lawsuit before we end. But I want to talk about politics before we go there. And the reason is because when we had Derek on, you were talking about how you will have candidates running in every riding, and I and then you pleaded with with other people to get involved, and obviously that's amazing. But having pastors is a really interesting tactic, because just think about a pastor that would engage in a debate with different members of people that are running to be a member of the Legislative Assembly in Alberta. How amazing would it be to have a pastor that's actually there, present, to be able to bring up the moral issues that these so-called conservatives are not going to touch with a 10-foot pole? So, for example, if you had a pastor, or any Christian, it doesn't have to be a pastor, but I think the weight and authority that it would bring if a pastor ran and was able to actually participate in a debate, which is obviously why they don't want to have debates, and they're trying to restrict people and candidates from participating in debates. But if you could successfully have a pastor or a Christian to go into these debates and bring up these moral issues, it would expose the conservatives for who they are, which is not conservative, because they're for abortion, because they're for the LGBT ideology, they're for divorce, they're for all of these non-conservative values. I mean, I don't understand why they call themselves conservatives anymore. Like, they don't stand for any socially conservative issue at all. Not a single one.
Because it's
Not
about-
immigration, not marriage, not gender, not abortion, like nothing. So to have a Christian to be able to be present for a debate, I think would be brilliant. And I really hope that we can see that. I want to see a Christian decimate a conservative in a debate, because they need to be exposed that they're not conservative. I mean, could you imagine Pierre Poilievre running in whatever riding that he's in right now, and a Christian comes up to the debate podium and says, well, what's your stand on abortion? You claim to be conservative. What's your stance on gender, on this gender ideology, on the LGBT stuff?
How many genders do we have? I mean, the 72 genders, it's a total insanity. And yet people believe in that stuff. They believe that, you have a right to life, and yet your baby doesn't. I mean,
I just think that even if the candidate didn't win, to have somebody to be able to bring up those issues, to expose, at least so the constituents can know that these conservatives are not conservative. So you have three parties in Alberta. You have the NDP, the Liberals, and you have the Conservatives, three major parties. And all of them are equally socially liberal.
Yes.
They're equally morally liberal. So what option do we have? I mean, I'm going to read a few quotes. These are very controversial quotes, but I'm reading them on purpose. They're by some of the founding fathers of the United States, about democracy. Now, in Canada, we do not have a republic. The United States has a republic, which arguably one of the best governmental systems. We have a constitutional monarchy in Canada. You could say it's a parliamentary democracy, but the official term is constitutional democratic monarch. I mean, I don't know what we even call it, because we actually have a king. So it's funny, just a few days ago, we had the No Kings protests, and Canadians participated.
Carney actually, when he was swearing, he swore allegiance to the king.
King of England.
The king, no, he called him King of Canada.
Yeah.
So openly, they're not hiding.
I mean, just the irony. The Canadians that were participating in the No Kings protest a couple of days ago, you actually have a king.
Yeah.
So I don't understand. But anyways, these are a few quotes
I blame
about
the teacher, Nathaniel. I blame the teacher for that.
Yeah, maybe we don't learn this in school anymore. I don't know. I prefer self-study. But Thomas Jefferson writes this. He says, a democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49. And I think that's what's kind of happened in Canada. I mean, we have a majority of people, and it could be argued that we have a silent majority that maybe doesn't agree with this stuff. But right now, the ruling party kind of shows that the majority of Canadians are okay with taking away the rights of the other 49%. The other minority of people. And they're the people screaming tolerance. They're the people that are saying, you're persecuting the minorities, the LGBT, the African Americans, the indigenous people. You're persecuting all these minorities. In reality, they're the majority that's persecuting the minority. John Adams writes, remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. Benjamin Franklin writes, democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. So
I remember those quotes, and they're so true. I mean, that's what we're witnessing right now. Why do you think, Nathaniel, they want to disarm Canadians? Because they're following the script, how to become a tyrant. Hitler did it, Stalin did it. Now it's, I guess, it's the Canadian turn.
Hitler was democratically elected. So when we have these people, I remember during the truck convoy and the COVID stuff, we had Trudeau, we had different premiers from all the provinces who were saying, you're a threat to democracy. And well, we're not a threat to democracy. We're a threat to your oligarchy. But Hitler was a democratically elected. So the system of democracy is not the thing that's good. It's having a society that's wise enough to choose good leaders for themselves. Yes. Right? You had Poland in the 1600s that had a democracy, and they were wise enough to pick for themselves a king that was focused on Christ, that was going to forward God's law, and was actually a righteous man. We had some righteous kings in Poland, and that was a democratic system. So the system is not maybe necessarily the problem. It's having a society of people that are actually going to pick the right people. And we don't have that right now. Right now we have indoctrinated people who believe that murdering a little baby in the womb is okay. Sacrificing it for the sake of convenience is perfectly okay, even up to 9 months. In fact, 51%, arguably 49 to 51% of people in the evangelical church in North America believe that abortion is okay. So half of the church in North America believes that abortion is okay. So we have a society of people that believe that. We have a society of people that believe that marriage can be between anyone, a donkey and a man, doesn't matter, right? You can have marriage between anyone, 2 men, 2 women, polygamy. They don't care. We have a society of people who do not have the right definition of marriage. You have a society of people that are okay with inviting anyone into their country, no matter what their views are, whatever their values or beliefs are. We have a society of people that hate their foundation, that hate the fact that we as pilgrims came into this country and actually established it on biblical values, on the Bible, on God, where we have pilgrims, and we have in our preamble to our constitution says, whereas Canada acknowledges the supremacy of God. So we have people that hate that. So our society right now, this is the problem. Our family unit is completely destroyed and decimated in Canada, and starting to be in America too. They're pushing back against it, which is amazing. But in North America, generally, the family unit is just destroyed. They have completely decimated the idea of what actually is supposed to be a family. They have decimated the very basic common sense principles that we've known for thousands of years. So how are these people supposed to pick good people? I mean, I don't really, am I to blame them? Am I to call them, you're stupid? Or are they just doing because they know no better? Jesus writes, forgive them for they know not what they do. And I don't think these people know what they're doing. They're just doing what their hearts find right, which is going
to be rudely awakened, Nathaniel, through economical hardship. Because those villains that are telling you own nothing and you will be happy, they mean business, and they are doing it. This is the biggest elimination of the middle class I have ever seen in the history of mankind. So they're not stopping. People are losing not just their jobs, they're using their properties left and right. The houses are getting smaller and smaller. Soon people will be living in little boxes like rats.
Yeah, and they're building those boxes. I've seen the new house models that they have, and they're tiny. But
it's crazy.
Franklin, I think maybe it was Jefferson that wrote that the people elect the government that they deserve. And I think people in Canada have done that. They've elected the people that they deserve. And that's extremely sad because it ought not be so. because I think we have the numbers. If
Oh,
only
definitely, we
the
have the
evangelical, if only the evangelical church went out and actually voted for what the Bible says, we'd have a super majority government. But they're
yeah,
not.
but because they think that you're a nut job, that you're crazy for exposing all those different things, because they have been indoctrinated by their clergy to, be a good slave. Shut up, sit down, give an offering every week and be a good slave, because this is not your home. I don't find that in the Bible. It says that there's going to be new heaven, new earth, and Jerusalem is coming on earth. We are being trained. This is a test on this side of eternity on earth, and earth is going to be given to us. Heaven is not your home. It's a temporary place. It's a holding place until everything is fulfilled. But who teaches that? People don't know the Bible. Nathaniel, most of the Christians do not read the Bible. They just don't read the Bible. They have no clue what God's intention for their lives is. But going back to the last topic, and I think we should end about the next court case. So 27th of October, I have to go back in court because, as you remember, a couple weeks ago, about a week before I went to United States, we had a meeting with the judge, and he said, I need more time. I need to read the documents and the proceeding. We had to bring lawyers. 3 lawyers showed up. They have 8 lawyers. I came.
This is for your lawsuit that you have filed against the government of Canada, the government of Alberta, the prison, the police departments, the Canada Post, the Alberta Health Services, all these people. This is the lawsuit.
Yes. And they are doing everything in their power to stall, to throw roadblocks, to drain our finances. You got to remember, the process is the punishment. They have unlimited resources. They're not paying for this. It's taxpayers. So in a way, we pay for them trying to destroy us. That's pretty much the concept here. They steal our taxes, and they use those taxes against us. But we are very determined. We're fighting, and on the 27th, on Monday, we're back in court, and we'll see what next steps are going to happen. So we want you to pray for us, and if you can support us, especially now. It has been very dry, a very hard few months. It's very difficult. Lots of people in our circle are hurting because of what the government, federal, provincial, and municipal, is doing. They're raising taxes left and right. The gasoline is $1.34 for a liter. People are really, really hurting. The food, I'm telling you, I was shocked. I shouldn't be shocked, but I am every time I go to the grocery store, because mostly mom is, my wife is doing the shopping, but from time to time I will go, and I'm absolutely shocked. The butter is $10. The coffee from 22 went to 36 or 42, something like crazy like this, doubled. And everything you look at the meat, the prices of meat. We are literally walking on cows in Alberta. We have so much beef, and yet everything goes to other countries, and we pay with silver and gold for meat. In Costco, a little packet of just little bit of steaks, $100. I'm shocked. I was in Tennessee, and a friend of mine was taking me to a restaurant over there, and says, look, $16 for a meal. And I mean, not just a steak, a good size, big steak, I think 12 ounces or 14 ounces. So big thing. And plus, the ads and, other things, $16, $17. I was absolutely shocked. How come? How come Americans can do it in Tennessee and we Albertans cannot? Like, what is the difference? Well, the difference is that they have a decent government. They have a godly government. They pray. They ask God's blessings. In Alberta, we have ungodly, wicked, evil, rogue, woke government that hates God and everything that is good. And of course, the federal government is even more wicked than the provincial government. We just elected, Nathaniel, in the city of Calgary, I don't know how, I'm a little bit confused sometimes. I shouldn't be. This person, he believes that he is not a woman and not a man. I mean, I don't know what he is. I don't think he knows who he is. He's
See,
kind
one
of
of those gender fluid.
bi binary, non-binary individual. Who knows? I'm so confused. I know they're confused as well. It's so confusing with 72 genders. My God, you will be confused. And that's why,
It's infinite now. It's not 72. There's no number.
well, there you go. You see, I'm
You're behind. You're
I'm in
so
the Middle
behind. You got
Ages.
to catch up.
I'm
Things
still
are
in the
changing
Middle
by the
Ages.
day.
I'm still
Yeah,
in the
no,
middle.
these are archaic and traditional views that you're not allowed to have, by the way.
I'm in the Middle Ages. I still believe in women and men craziness. I know. I'm so sorry. But going back to the topic, um, we have a mayor. We just on Monday, Calgarians elected their mayor, and the person that is a man was born a man, but according to him, he is
He's
something
nothing.
else. He's something else,
He's
and
like a plant.
that's the leader of this city. And that's why I said what I said when I went to vote. I said, well, most of those people are wicked. They're just evil. So we don't have much choices. We don't have much option. However, we're going back to the very thing that we started this podcast with, is what my wife says, what your mom says, that in order for God to judge a society, to judge a city, to judge a province, to judge a state, to judge a country, we, the church, the children of the living God, we must do our part. Whatever you can, every man can do something. Every man can do at least a little. If we all would do a little, this nation of ours would look completely different. So please pray for Monday. I'm back in court. We're still fighting. We're still exposing and doing our best to bring the truth to the Canadians. And we need your support. We cannot do
And
this.
that's what this lawsuit could do, right? You can get discovery of all the things in the background that was going on during COVID. Who was issuing what order? Who was behind this?
That's
Was
right.
it scientific? Was it based on any science? What evidence did they have? What were their intentions? A lot of information can be released to Canadians through this lawsuit, through discovery, and that's part of the reason why you're doing this. It's to, one, set a precedent that they cannot do this to Canadians. They cannot do this to Christians. They can't do this to pastors. They cannot abuse and harass and persecute and prosecute. And we're going to push back against it when they do. And it's also to give information, because we can find out so much information through this lawsuit. We can have so much discovery, so many documents, so many emails that we can get from the Alberta government, the federal government, the police, the prisons. We can find out a whole lot of information that'll benefit Canadians. This isn't just about you or us or anything. This is a Canadian-wide lawsuit, Canada-wide lawsuit. So,
but that's why also, Nathaniel, that's why they're so afraid. That's why there is such a big pushback. That's why they're throwing every rock that they can, every roadblock at every turn, because they know who they are dealing with. You see, one thing, you can accuse me of everything, but one thing you cannot accuse me of, that I am afraid to tell the truth to the people. I will let you know what we have uncovered. We will release the documents. We will show the whole world how crooked this system has become. And I'm talking about the so-called conservative system, conservative government, because what happened to us was not done to us by the federal government, the liberal government, or the NDP, the communist, socialist government. All of those things were done to us by the conservative government. It was the conservative government that locked the most pastors in a history of this country during that time. It was
but we will find out. We will find out what the federal government was involved in. What was their foreign interference in it? We have access now for the first time, possibly ever, on this scale, to uncover information so that Canadians can find out. This is like a a reporter doing a deep dive, because you can't get this information unless you file a lawsuit, unless you get discovered.
Yes. Yeah.
And now we can get all of those emails, the documents. They're probably trying to shred everything right now as we speak, but they can't get everything, and things slip through, and we will be able to uncover so much information from the federal government, the provincial government, the prisons, the police, all of these agencies. And this benefits Canadians. So if you can help out, you can see below, all of this goes towards this lawsuit, and goes towards, as you, the viewer, know, this ministry still feeds the homeless 3 times a week regularly, just going on the street and just doing that. Like, we don't talk about that as much because it's just been such a consistent thing that's been going on for 20 plus years, just doing what the Bible says, going onto the streets, feeding the needy, the homeless, the poor, taking care of the widows and the orphans, preaching the gospel and feeding them, clothing them, giving them shelter and hope. And that happens 3 times a week. And that is not free. Like, that's not free for us. That it's free for the homeless people. It's free for the people that are in need. But all of this, of course, costs enormous money. This costs astronomical numbers to keep this going. And with everything, like the Bible says, that some people will have a form of godliness but deny its power. We're not denying its power. We're going onto the street actually with the gospel, with the through the power of the Holy Spirit. And we're also fighting. We're fighting through the courts, fighting with our words, fighting through our influence. That's why we do shows like this. We're talking, as Charlie Kirk says, when conversation stops, that's when disasters happen. That's when civil wars begin. That's when relationships break. We have to have conversations. We have to speak the truth. We have to go out there and just do what the Bible says. It gives you quite clearly what you are to do: to go out into all the world, preach the gospel, to take care of the needy, to not abuse people, to not take advantage of people. It's very simple. And there are people out there that are just not doing that. And this ministry does do that. So if you want to support it, you can see how to do that down below. I think next time we might be able to talk about unity. Unity, what the Bible talks about unity, what the Bible says about unity, what that means. Who are we to unify with, and who are we not to unify with? Because the Bible actually does tell us exactly what we are to do. I'm going to be quoting a message by Charlie Kirk actually on this topic. And, Lord willing, we'll talk about that next time. Maybe if something happens, as so often does, maybe something will happen. We'll talk about something else, but possibly next time we'll talk about unity. Maybe we'll mention the Israel conflict. And if you want to get involved in telling us what you want us to talk about, if you want to hear about specific things, comment down below. Let us know what you want to talk about. If there's anything, let us know. Comment down below and share this message. Shadow banning is crazy. They try to suppress this in the strangest ways, because sometimes I'll post something, I'll repost something from where I am, and then it'll get a certain amount of views. But if it's posted in a different region, it's just, there's all sorts of crazy things. Some people can't see this video on their feed. Actually, I've tried to look for your Facebook, Dad, and sometimes I can't find it. It's just, it's very bizarre things that are going on. So if you, the viewer, can share this, like it, share it far and wide so that this message can go out there, we appreciate it. And please pray for everything that's going on. Pray for Pastor Derek Reimer and his court cases and his ordeal and his probation officer. Pray for that. Pray for this lawsuit that that's already in the court. That's already, it's underway. They're trying to push back against it, but it's going, it's already proceeding. You're meeting, you have to go in court on Monday. So pray for that lawsuit, pray for this ministry, and we thank you.
Yeah, and the last thing, Christmas is coming. If you're looking for a gift, well, the book is still available, Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. If you're looking to gift someone during this season, that's your opportunity. And all of the proceedings coming from the book are going back into the fight for our rights and for the rights of our children. So be blessed, stay strong. It was good to see you, Nathaniel, again. And God wills it, we'll see each other next week.